Hello, I'm Bob Ganzak, and this is MotivationU, the podcast. I spent a lot of time on the road. Hello, I'm Bob Ganzak, and this is MotivationU, the podcast, coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill at Celebration Point inside the Coach's Podcast Room. Got a very special guest today I'll introduce in a moment. Just a little tidbit. We are available on Facebook Live, YouTube. You can watch us there. So many, 30-some different platforms that we are on, if it's Apple Podcast or wherever you find your podcast, you can find us. So encourage people. And if you have questions, just write them into Facebook Live here and ask the questions. And Jared or Zach, our producers, will get us the question on air and we'll be able to answer that. A lot of things started. A new Dale Carnegie class here in Gainesville on Tuesday night. 23 incredible people that I'm so excited. Had Jeffrey Meldon from Meldon Law stop by before the class. We cut a little video. And one of the things that we were talking about is just how everybody's nervous that first night. Even the instructor is nervous and the graduate assistants and everybody else, but that energy in the room is just incredible. So, we have a lot of programs starting up. We'll have another one coming soon in Lake City. We're planning some in Jacksonville. So to keep tabs so you can come and join us, go to jacksonville.dalecarnegie.com, jacksonville.dalecarnegie.com, and find a course. There's a little button up there that you can hit that, and then you can join us and be a part of that. So a lot of things happening very quick. It's going to be a full summer. No better time. So many people sometimes say, wow, I just don't have the time. It's an investment. It's an investment. Not only the financial investment, it's the time investment. But what you get out of it is absolutely incredible. But our guest today, I'm very, very excited about this. Amber Bollinger.
Yes.
And Amber is also a Dale Carnegie instructor. First time we've met, pulled up in the parking lot, same time, first time that we got to know each other. But Amber, welcome to the program.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
And how long have you been a Dale Carnegie instructor?
I started as a Dale Carnegie instructor as part of an initiative at Middle Tennessee State University when the dean at the time incorporated the Dale Carnegie course as part of the required curriculum. And so they did a couple of classes of staff and faculty to train us as Dale Carnegie instructors so then we could lead that course. And that was around 2015, 2016.
Awesome. Is he still the dean?
He actually just turned in his retirement notice, and so at the end of this academic year, he is stepping away from his deanship, and then will be just returning as marketing faculty for the university. So.
What was it? I've talked to him on the phone a number of times.
Dean David Urban.
Dean Urban, that's right.
So hi, David Urban, if you happen to watch.
Well, we've been working with the University of North Florida in wanting to incorporate a similar program there. So I connected Dr. Olson from UNF with Dr. Urban from MTSU.
He's incredible.
And the two of them have hopefully had those conversations because we're working for a fall kickoff.
Okay.
Cross our fingers if we can get that done. So we're working
awesome,
on that.
Yeah. It was an awesome opportunity and an incredible experience.
So where did life start for Amber?
Yeah, so I am originally from Jasper, Tennessee, which I laughed when I left for undergrad. We had one whole red light or stoplight in our whole town. It's about 20 miles west of Chattanooga. And so if you're on 24 headed towards Nashville, between Chattanooga and Nashville, Jasper's right there at Nickajack Lake. So
I have seen that sign.
yes,
Because as we were talking before, my stepdaughter, her and her husband both graduated from MTSU. So we made quite a few trips up there to visit them while they were there. And 24 heading over, Jasper, yeah.
we used to be able to designate where the exit was based on the fireworks stand in the middle of the interstate. So if you ever saw the fireworks stand in the middle of the interstate, because east went one way around and west went the other way around the fireworks stand, but that has now been torn down and now it's a Love's gas station. So, so
I haven't been up there for a while.
The Love's that divides the interstate. That's where I grew up.
When we went to graduation in 2008, they graduated in 2008. We flew up, so it was. I still remember that day because my daughter was graduating from UF here, and so her graduation was in the morning. So I came to my daughter's graduation with my son, of course, and then my son drove me out to the airport in Jacksonville, hopped on a plane, I didn't get to see the ceremony at MTSU, but we got to enjoy the party downtown Nashville that night, so that was kind of interesting. So when you were started in Jasper,
Yes.
Tennessee, what were some of your early leadership influences? What were some of the things that just the people, the events that really shaped and formed your leadership thoughts?
Yeah, so it was a very rural area, and so a lot of, really small town thought processes and rural southern Tennessee thought processes. And so one of the things I knew was that I didn't want to stay small town, and so as young as I think 7th and 8th grade, used to tell my mother, like, I'm going to college as far away from here as I can go. I have always had an explorer heart, and so like leaving was something that I knew I wanted to do. So when it came time to actually start looking at colleges and everything, and then the financial reality of college also came along with that. Like Middle Tennessee is really where I was my only option. And back to your question of like leadership, like my parents were really who I looked to for leadership. Some of like my youngest, like I think leadership training came from being on my parents' property and learning to drive a tractor when I could barely reach the accelerator and clutch to pull fence posts with my dad, and seeing my mom care for elderly family members and those types of experiences.
So the seed that brought this podcast together was a conversation I was having with Freddie Wiebe one day, and I had told him, you've connected with Freddie, and a lot of the people that watch this podcast know who he is. And he and I were talking, and I had made the comment to him that some of our greatest leaders are unknown. Mm-hmm. They're people running the Dollar General or making an impact on people's lives. And that was the seed for this program. It was that you don't have to have the name of Buffett or Gates or Musk or any of these big names to be great leaders. We can lead teams. We can lead small groups and small pods inside our companies. And that was kind of how we got started. And so I always like to find out what somebody else's leadership journey. Now, explain to us what your role now is, because you're at the University of Florida.
I am, yes.
So explain what your role is there, and then we'll kind of kick back into your history and bring some of that up.
So my role right now is oversight of a sequential set of coursework that is really geared towards experiential learning and professional development and developing those soft skills that students need to go out and be successful in the real world. So a large part of what I do is a first year experience course, which brings students in and helps them through that transition piece and introduces them to all of the resources that are available to them as students to help them with the transition to being a college student, because it is so much different than what they're accustomed to in high school. And then another huge piece of what I do is the internship experience for our a little bit older, more seasoned students as they get out there to experience the real world in a working style setting, and really like helping them reflect on that experience and set goals for themselves for professional growth and development.
Is this through the business school? Or?
Yes, it's in the Warrington College of Business. I work with all the Heavener undergrads.
How did you get connected with UF?
Job searches. So it was really through, we use the term butterfly effect a lot in our coursework with our first year students about how you can have a really clear plan for what you want your life to be, but all these butterfly effects are going to interject into your life and change your pathway. And that's really what brought me here. I had left my position at Middle Tennessee and went to the College of Charleston, was working there, and then I had moved my entire family to Charleston. In August, the pandemic hit, and we were then in a brand new town that we'd lived in for 6 months. No community, no one, and all of us were confined to our home by ourselves. So we stayed there, and then as the pandemic came to a close, we realized that just the logistics of my position and the commute back and forth to the campus and where we were living wasn't going to be feasible, and the position hadn't worked out to be exactly what I'd wanted professionally. And so I started looking and found this position that kind of married all of my interest. And I was like, you know what, let's throw my name in the hat and see what happens. And so here we are.
So College of Charleston, you have to admit that's a nice little town and where the college is located.
It is, yes.
It's pretty, it's unfortunate that it happened the way it happened.
Yeah.
But now you can always go back there and visit.
For sure, yes.
Quaint little town
Charleston is a fabulous place to visit. We loved, all of the fun stuff and access to the things downtown. But in terms of like building a life with a family and with all of the inner structure of that type of thing, it just wasn't going to work for our family unit. And so we were like, we tried, we saw, we conquered, we're moving on.
That's flexibility, right? We talk about that in the Dale Carnegie class. Sometimes you have to live intentionally and do it flexible, have that flexibility. When you graduated from MTSU, did you directly go to work for them or?
No, I actually didn't. My first professional role was in long-term care. And that's kind of what has, again, led me down this path in terms of like being really passionate about professional development. I started a position. I worked with the regional team of consultants who went out and helped really with facility management from all of the different healthcare disciplines. And a lot of my role was organizing and implementing professional development conferences every year for all of the different healthcare disciplines. And so I just really fell in love with like helping people grow and do better in their work and getting them invested in what they were doing and getting their excitement about the jobs that they were doing too. And so I decided after doing that for 6.5 years, there was really not a lot of advancement opportunities, and I've always been very ambitious. And so I was like, what can I do now? And so I decided to go back to school. I applied for a master's program and was going to do a master's of business education that had a training and development concentration for really corporate style training and development. And at the same time decided I would like to go back and work at the university because of education benefits. And so the day that I got my letter for admission to the master's program, I got a phone call inviting me to an on-campus interview. So it was just really worked out. And I was able to start an administrative position on campus, did that full time while I did my master's program with a 2-year-old and a new family, and did that for 2 years, and then moved into more of the role that I've been doing in higher education and advising that led me kind of on my higher ed journey from there.
That's pretty, it's interesting. Now, it was at MTSU that you connected with Dale Carnegie.
Yes.
And if you can give us a little synopsis of what that program was and how you got involved.
Sure.
And what that journey was like.
Right. So it was a new program that the dean had started because, him going out and talking to employers, everyone that he talked to, it was like, your students are coming. They have the technical knowledge and those skills. That's not where we're lacking. It's the being able to communicate and work appropriately with people and in team settings and develop all those soft skills. And so he was a graduate of the Dale Carnegie program, and so he really started seeking out opportunities to incorporate that into the required curriculum for the business students. And he ultimately did. We incorporated the Dale Carnegie course as a approved through the state curriculum college level course that was offered to our business majors, and every one of our business students took that course to graduate. And so as part of that, because, Dale Carnegie franchised, we were like, okay, we're going to run 15 classes simultaneously every semester. And they were like, we don't have those trainers. And so you're going to train your staff. And so the Dale Carnegie franchise there with Alan Walker came in and trained and led training courses for faculty and staff who wanted to become certified to teach that course. And so they did special training courses for us there at MTSU to train us all and get us certified. We did the, model where we had a certified trainer in with us the first time we taught, and then we led the second course where they monitored us. And so the official Dale Carnegie program just kind of adjusted for us in that educational setting. So from that point, I've been a certified trainer and continued to teach the course on my own at MTSU until I transitioned. Then when I went to Charleston, I actually connected with that franchise, and that's where I taught my first public class right after.
Who was running that franchise at the time?
Oh my gosh, you're putting me on the spot, and now I can't.
Okay.
Liz. Is Liz? I believe it's Liz.
Okay.
But I would have to go back and check my email. I'm sorry. And my brain is compartmentalized and put that aside at this moment.
I hear you. Could it have been Ingrid?
Yes, Ingrid. Yes.
Tugwell.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Liz is one of her admin folks,
okay.
So that is why I was like, I know I've communicated with Liz, who was it, but Ingrid is.
When I became certified for the leadership programs, I did that in Charleston.
Okay.
I went up there for the 4 or 5 days that you go through that. Ingrid was our host franchise at that time, so
yes.
That was 2016, I think, 15.
Yes, and DJ Thatcher is the senior trainer.
Awesome
so
guy, isn't he?
He is. He's awesome. So he actually did our recertification for what that I went through in Charleston before moving to Gainesville. So
I did my recertification online. And I'd rather do it in person any
ours was online as well because it was right at the end of the COVID sequesterment.
that online recertification for people that we get recertified every other year, in order to maintain, all of the credentials that we have. And really what they put us through is absolutely incredible. But that's why the programs are so good, because, we're well trained.
Yes.
Before we even, as you said, here's somebody that in college education, has worked in industry for years, and you have to go through a tandem, and then you have to go through being viewed and everything so that you do it the same way as we all do. Right. Now, I do like the fact that they give us the opportunity to put our own personality into it. Mm-hmm. When I started, that wasn't the case. My boss was old school, and he would come out and watch us, and boy, he would critique me. I felt like I was at a Toastmasters club or something. Bob, you said 3 ums, and but that type of thought process.
Right.
So it was kind of a challenge. What was it like going through that as a student? at MTSU?
So, Dale Carnegie, one of the things with the public course is that most of the people who sign up for the public course are there by choice. And so a lot of them, unless they're supervisors or someone has signed them up unwillingly, but with the student population who were like, you have to take this course to graduate, we had a lot of hostages in the courses. And so it was a really interesting experience where, students came in, and then we start on day one with standing up and interacting and being very active and participatory, and they're like, oh my gosh, no, I'm out. And so we had a lot of students, and we're like, well, you can take this class or you can not be a business major, like those are your choices. And so we, as the trainers, were really, part of our training was really facilitating, like, how do we sell the value of what we're teaching these students, and how do we get the buy-in early on so that we don't scare them out the door before they even get a chance to see what they are capable of and what this course can do for them. And one of my favorite stories from doing it as a college grad is I had a student who came in, and she came up to me privately before class started, and she was like, I have to tell you, I have so much social anxiety. Like, if I'm going to have to stand up and talk, like, you're going to have to, I'm not going to be able to do it. And I was like, I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to help you. I'm going to be here to support you. And she was like, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. And she's like, you're going to have to catch me. I'm going to pass out. And I'm going to, like, if you fall, I'm here for you. I got you. I'm going to catch you. And so
did you have to catch her?
She didn't. She got up there and she did it. And she went on to complete the program. She won the highest overall award for the program for that class itself, and then was inducted into the Honor Society for the School of Business. And at the award ceremony for that Honor Society for the School of Business, gave a speech to over 250 participants in the audience. And she 100% credits, like, her being able to have that level of confidence in her abilities and to be able to do that to the Dale Carnegie course. And so seeing that level of transition from a student who didn't want to stand up in front of a group of 20 to being able to stand up and give a speech in front of 200 plus was really incredible, and was what really made the class so wonderful from that standpoint.
You and I could sit here and talk about our experiences and the stories. I've had like a handful of times where I've gone back to, did you get to read The Art of Dale Carnegie, the big, if you haven't, well, now you're in my area, so I was going to say, get your franchisee to find that for you. I'll find it for you, okay?
All right.
But he tells the story in there, because it's kind of like, I say, it's kind of like his memoirs. He's a lot of writing that we had to read that when I went through for certification back in 2010, 11. We had to read that. That was part of our curriculum to read that. But he talks about the time that there was the person on stage. It was a lady, I believe, that she just, couldn't get the words out. And so he turned her sideways and said, just talk to me. Just talk to me. And he got her through that until she was able to turn her body a little bit more, until she was talking to the whole group. And I've had a few of those. The one I'm thinking about happened right here in Gainesville, and she also won the highest award of achievement for the whole class. But I didn't know if we were going to make it through that evening, But it's just incredible the way that Mr. Carnegie's laboratory, it works.
It truly does.
It works. It's an amazing thing. So you went through that, and then when you were a student, what was that like as far as being the student?
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you the first time.
No, to the first time that you went through the Dale Carnegie class.
So, as a student, who's gone in, I'm an extrovert, so I loved everything about the Dale Carnegie course, but seeing some of my, most commonly the faculty who had not had any formal education training and were really just accustomed to teaching their designated area of content, and doing that was really, it brought us all together as a class. And so some of my strongest relationships with my coworkers and colleagues that they're in the Jones College of Business were formed through the Dale Carnegie course and us going through that experience together. And it was really interesting to look at it because we knew we were going through that course to then be able to teach this to students. And so going through it with a different lens than most potential participants are going through the course was a really interesting experience in terms of like, how are students going to take this, or how are we going to get students to do this? And like having that lens as we went through was a really different experience.
That judgmental part of you, and then you're learning in the class not to be judgmental.
Yeah.
So it's like, double entendre here. You know, what am I doing?
Yes.
We're speaking with Amy Bollinger.
Amber
Bollinger. I told you I was going to call you by the wrong name. I told you, Amber.
Oh, it's okay.
All
those names are...
Yeah, too many of them. Amber Bollinger. Thank you for correcting me. But I told her to correct me up front, so that was part of that. And with the Warrington College of Business here at the University of Florida, when going back to the MTSU days, with the people that were in your class when you went through the Dale Carnegie class, how many of you ended up becoming instructors?
Yeah, so almost all of the faculty and staff went through like an accelerated version of the class to some level so that they could familiarize themselves with what Dale Carnegie was as we were implementing this into the curriculum. And about, I'd say like 15-20% of the folks who went through the first course, first part of the course, introductory, moved on to the second course, which is more intensive training session. And then as we got through that, probably only about 10% of us continued on because it is a very arduous
Yes, it is.
process to become certified. So, and it's not for everybody. Not everybody can do it successfully. And I appreciate that as much as I appreciate the people who self-selected out.
So the individuals that self-selected out, in your words, do you connect with them anymore, or what was it? You know, what were their thoughts? Like, how did they say this just isn't for me?
I think it was more like, I mean, you have to be pretty high energy to be a Dale Carnegie instructor. I mean, it takes a lot of effort and energy to do it and do it effectively. And I think it was really that, and like the ask of what we were asking people to put into doing it was more than they were willing or had the capacity to give at that point in time.
I share with you, war stories, right? That's we tell a lot of those. But I taught a class for an in-house class for a client, summer of 2018, and we had 105 people. So we divided it up into 4 classes. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then because of their schedule, we had a Friday class for the people that could not make it. And they were all on the same timing, so it was session 1, all went through session 1 the first week. And we would have, 10, 15 people out of the 100 that couldn't make it, so we'd have a smaller class on Friday. I never knew how difficult it was going to be to teach 5 classes in a week of Dale Carnegie. And to have that same energy on Friday that you brought on Monday morning, it was just like, what did I do to myself?
Yes.
That really, did you ever have to do back-to-back classes? Or
I didn't, because I was teaching at an adjunct. But I did teach adjunct after working a 40-hour work week in my regular full-time job. And so I would work Monday through Friday from 8 to 4:30, and then I would go into a 4:45 class that lasted until 7:30, or if it was a 2-day-a-week class, it would be an hour and a half, and we would do kind of half of session 1 or whatever. And so like maintaining okay, it's the end of the day, I'm not going home. Now I got to go in and do Dale Carnegie training for another, hour and a half or 3 hours, and like keeping yourself motivated in that way. But it is, the content itself is motivating if you are passionate about what you're doing. And I think that plays a big part in why I love it so much.
we have 2 adjunct instructors out of the Jacksonville franchise. Tim Shoptaw, who works with Amedisys, he's in finance end of things, so he works a regular shift. And then Fred Hewlett, who is a school teacher So he's kind of like that. He leaves the kids at the high school. I believe he teaches history, American history. So he leaves that and then goes to do his class, and that's a long day.
It is.
I mean, when you're looking at, being at the high school at 7:30 in the morning, and then you never get out at 9:30. It's by the time the instructor leaves, it's 10:15, 10:20, and when people are asking questions, and you have to be just as energetic as they're asking the questions as you are during the program. So I see where you're coming from on that. That had to be a difficult challenge on that. What is your favorite part of the program? We all have our favorite sessions, right?
Yeah.
What is your favorite part of the program?
So my favorite part is actually one that's not even really included in the 8-week course, and it's the flexibility drills.
Okay.
I love the flexibility drills. I think that it pushes people out of their comfort zone. It is kind of wild and out there, but also serves such a valid purpose, and helps people understand the importance of not taking yourself so seriously, and being able to kind of push your comfort zones and press yourself. And it is one of my favorite sessions to do, and we did do it in the curriculum.
So it is
Middle
part of our
Tennessee.
8-week
Oh, it is? Okay.
program. So I will invite you
yes.
in
I
on week
love
6. That's week 6 for us.
It's my favorite.
We do the stress reports in the first half, and the flexibility drills in the second half.
Okay.
A couple of times I flip-flop those, but just so they can do the stress after the flexibility.
I know, because they are stressful.
And give them one more reason to start applying some of those stress principles. But mine's always been week 7. I do week 7 with the showing appreciation, giving that one-on-one, and then the inspirational talk. I'll flip-flop those sometimes too, especially if I have somebody making up, or because if you show up to class, and even if you're just making up because you missed a session in an earlier program, you are just like everybody else in the room. So I'll flip-flop those so that people can listen to the new student who they don't know and get a little bit. So when it comes to the appreciation, they have some context to go with them on that standpoint. So we're going to take a quick break here. We've kind of having this conversation. We've gone way beyond. My name is Bob Ganzak. This is Amber Bollinger, and this is MotivationU, the podcast.
We still hear it. The sound of victory. The joy of being part of something great. And while things may not be the same right now, we haven't gone anywhere. If you bleed orange and blue, then Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Jeffrey, what are you doing?
Well, I'm joining the band, of course. Since Meldon Law is the official law firm partner of the Florida Gators, I want to help.
Dad, we're litigators. Let's stick to helping people in the courtroom.
Well, can we still hang out and jam a little bit? At Meldon Law, we won't back down.
There are a few tickets left for Gainesville's best pig roast and special whiskey debut. Sunday, May 21st from 2 to 5 p.m., Spurrier's Gridiron Grill is roasting a whole pig and sipping Piggyback Rye whiskey. Join us at Vicer's Rooftop for the release of Spurrier's Piggyback Rye's private labeled barrel select whiskey. We'll have specialty drinks, games, raffles, plus each ticket includes your own bottle of Spurrier's Piggyback Rye whiskey to take home. Go to Spurriers.com to get your ticket to join 125 of your friends at the Rooftop Pig Roast before we sell out.
Looking for more reasons to celebrate? We have them here at Celebration Point. Enjoy some of the newest additions to our already celebratory lineup, like Dave & Buster's, Les Macarons, and Prime and Pearl. There's always a reason to celebrate. Join us anytime for any occasion. Celebration Point, where Gators come to celebrate.
Coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill inside the Coach's Podcast Room here at Celebration Point. If you're ever going up and down I-75, exit 384, west of I-75, is this incredibly beautiful little nugget that Svein Dirkelbatten put together with his Viking crew. It's called Celebration Point. Shops, restaurants, things to do, hang out, music on the weekends, and Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. At Coach Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, there's a museum just pointing over there because just on the other side of the glass is the museum. You can come and see a lot of sports artifacts, and Coach Spurrier's really, he emptied out his house and put it here, and it's incredible things. But the food here, just absolutely wonderful. My wife and I were here 2 weekends ago or 3 weekends ago and had an incredible, it was graduation weekend, so it was really nice to see all the grads coming in and what have you. So, Amber, I am so interested to find out about how you see the leadership side coming out of the Dale Carnegie class, because I see it as the foundation of leadership. Mm-hmm. But maybe, we have our leadership programs like Develop Your Own Leadership Potential and Leadership Training for Managers and on and on and on. But what do you see leadership coming out of the Dale Carnegie class?
I agree. I don't know how you couldn't see leadership coming out of the Dale Carnegie course. For me, so much of leadership is the relationship building and the gaining trust and all of the principles, and that is what students, if they are really practicing the principles of Dale Carnegie, then they are inherently going to become leaders because other people are going to look to them and follow their lead. We talk a lot with our students about leadership doesn't mean a title. And I think that is really what the Dale Carnegie course embodies, is that you can make impact and be inspirational and be influential without a title. It's all about how you approach life and how you interact with others and the respect that you give and the respect that you earn.
Yeah, that's a good assessment of that. And when you were at MTSU and the programs were, the students had to take it because it's part of their curriculum, they had to take it. What was week 2 like? That first defining moment talk, because in public classes, I've had to go out to the parking lot to bring students back in because they just couldn't, they'd be the first half of class and then they would leave. Mm-hmm. And I'd see them getting in their car and I'm going, whoa. And you run. What was that like, that experience for them? The first time for those introverted individuals, that first time they had to get up and talk to their fellow students?
I would say even more so than like necessarily the introversion, it was for somebody who really sees themselves as not having lived much life, it's like I haven't lived enough life to have had a defining moment. And so helping them identify things that have happened in their life that really has truly impacted who they are. But then there's also the students who have lived so many incredible experiences and lived through so many incredible experiences. And when they open up and are willing to share about those, and then seeing the impact that having that level of vulnerability has, and letting them kind of lead the course and showing that level of leadership and how it inspired the students who maybe didn't feel so confident to get up there, once their peers had done it and shared something so significant, really impacted the other students and their willingness to do it.
Now, I've been a guest speaker and lecturer at University of North Florida, where I'm working with the professor that is in the room. And when I watch their style, and remembering back my college days, I mean, as a professor, you really don't do any coaching. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, when you're a Dale Carnegie instructor, you do coaching. I mean, mm-hmm. You interrupt people and you coach them and help them bring out what they have inside them. How do the professors that spent a career being just a information giver, how do you see that transition to the coaching side of it?
Yeah, and I think, back to like earlier when we were talking about like what was some of the things that pushed people to say like this isn't for me, I think that is a huge piece of it, is they couldn't really wrap their heads around like, how am I going to implement this into the style of teaching that I've already been doing for so long? And then others who really saw the value in it really embraced that. And one of my biggest mentors, Dr. Barry Blair, he continued in the program and is a certified trainer and is still doing that. He's the department chair for the marketing department at Middle Tennessee now. And he really implemented that. And even I can see his teaching style and like how that really worked well with his teaching style. But it is a challenge, and like especially for some of our tenure faculty who had been there for so many years and had really, like this is what I teach, this is how I teach, and this is how I do it. And then someone's coming in and saying, nope, you got to do it this way, this way, this way, or you're not doing it right, which is really what the Dale Carnegie training does. And it was a challenge for some folks to be able to really change that late in their careers to doing something differently.
I wonder if they, when they went back to teaching their normal curriculum, if they implemented some of the techniques that were taught in that. I wonder how that helped or hindered their teachings in other programs. Do you know any?
I do, 100%. One of the finance faculty stands out immediately because he said adamantly, like, since I've done this and become a Dale Carnegie certified trainer, like it has changed how I teach in all of my other classes. And I mean, he was teaching finance, and so like to hear like that level of influence, and I can't imagine that it made things worse. I mean, we know how successful the Dale Carnegie course is, and so if he's implementing that with a different curriculum, it had to be influential. So
I always, the principles, the teachings are all like fantastic. I still think the thing that I got the most from becoming an instructor was the way we're taught how to facilitate a meeting, which is again the way Mr. Carnegie, passed down for us to learn how to facilitate a meeting. That is something that I really makes us unique. And I've seen instructors for 7 Habits and different programs from Franklin Covey, and there's not another organization that does that the way we do, and I think that would behoove any instructor in any world. Mm-hmm. Do you see that in your life too? Or?
Definitely. I mean, I know that I implement with the charisma and the way that we do things and the energy that we bring to everything, that it has definitely impacted me as an instructor. And I think again, just because I'm naturally extroverted and typically high energy, that's probably also why I gravitate towards the Dale Carnegie program so much, because it just works really well together. But even my students who, like when we do some Dale Carnegie-esque types of activities, they're always their favorite activities. And so when I think about that, it inherently speaks to the value of what we do and how we do it.
And I'm naturally introverted. I was a quiet kid. I never spoke up. The big thing was little boys are to be seen and not heard. That was drilled into my brain when I was a youngster. So it's like when I walk into the room for class, I mean, it's like boom, there you are. I mean, it's so much fun. I mean, and I love people. Even being introverted, I still love people. I mean, that's just, I love being around people, and I love watching people grow. And that's just such a great aspect of it. That has to be, an incredible thing. I think back for when I was a student, which was a lot longer before that you were. I was in another century. That I was a college student, and the experience was not great. I mean, most of my instructors didn't even stand up. Mm-hmm. They sat behind a desk, smoking a cigarette, bumming cigarettes off of the people in the class. The folks that smoked, and I can just have that vision in my mind, and it was pretty darn boring. Mm-hmm. And to see that somebody in finance, which can be a pretty straight line,
content heavy, theory,
quiet,
yes.
If that professor can incorporate some of the things that what a great way for a student to go through school. Mm-hmm. I mean, that to me is just, why doesn't everybody do? I mean, I foresee the day when every university has that program in it. I mean, we should.
Right. And I think a lot of, at least from what I've seen, there are a lot more opportunities that have shifted in higher education. We've moved to a lot more active learning based types of processes and systems. And so I think that does incorporate a lot of kind of what we do with the active learning in Dale Carnegie, and you do the experiential piece. My new department is all about experiential learning, and it is about learning while doing. And I think that is what makes the Dale Carnegie program so successful, is because that is what it is also. Mm-hmm. He was just an innovator and didn't know it.
No, he didn't. And I've read some articles and stories about schools, like when you went back to the 30s and 40s and early 50s, some colleges, started incorporating his facilitating styles, and still do to today. I can't name you any universities because I don't remember them. But that, the influence that he had on education outside of corporate education was incredible. It's just his speaking style too. That really plays a lot in what we do. Looking at the principles, what is your favorite? You got 30 human relations principles. We all have a few favorites. What are a few of them that just jump out to you that you enjoy the most?
Oh man, I think my very favorite one is just smile.
Yeah.
And it is something like I think is so important and so simplistic, and people really just aren't even aware of facial expressions, especially in such a digital age time, and like knowing like how impactful your smile is, and even when you're not visually present, like how much your smile can impact your tone and your language and how you come across even when people can't see your smile. And I think that is probably by far my favorite.
That's good. That's good. Yes, I spoke to a group yesterday in Lake City, Florida, just north of where we are here. I don't know how long you've been in Gainesville, but
yes,
Lake City's about 45 minutes north of us. And I spoke to the women's lunch and learn. There was about 100 women at lunch, and when I mentioned smile, because I went through not all of the principles, but a handful of my favorites. And smiling was one of those. And I asked him, I said, "Do you ever meet somebody that was smile challenged?" And everybody just laughed. You know, I didn't expect that response, and so when I started asking them, you know, no names, but what is the person like? You know, and they would start describing this, you know, individual that just could not smile. You know, it's just amazing. Probably my favorite principle is ask questions instead of giving direct orders. Because it's so great as a parent. And as John Wooden, the great basketball coach, said, you know, don't do for someone else what they can do for themselves. And that's kind of the same thought there when you ask those questions and you help people discover what they have inside instead of telling them, I need you to do this. You know, that's one of my favorites. And smiling. And the biggest one, the challenge one for me, is don't criticize, condemn, or complain.
I was just about to say that, like, it is, I think, the most important and also the most difficult at the same time. So
we spent probably 10, 15 minutes talking about that yesterday. It was, you know, I'm pretty good at not complaining anymore. You know, I've worked that out of my system. And the criticizing, I've really, you know, consciously, it's the condemning. It's that thing that goes on in your mind that just is like a automatic switch. You know, like you know, when there's not enough water in the kettle, the pot turns off automatically. Well, sometimes that switch goes off in your mind, or it just goes. And so I told everybody in the room. I said, okay, now everybody just, you know, don't think about criticism. Don't think about complaining. I want you to not condemn. We're just going to go 10 seconds of silence, not condemn. And I saw the lights go, can't do it. That's such a challenge. It is. You know? It's incredible. And the listening and encouraging other people to talk. That one too. That's what was it like the first time you taught your class by yourself?
oh my gosh, so incredibly scary. I think.
Was it 8 weeks?
It was, we dipped to full semester, so we kind of had an adjusted schedule to meet the 14-week semester.
Oh, okay.
And it was, you either met for 1 day for 3 hours or 2 days for an hour and 25 minutes. And man, like, what the expectations are, and the bar is high. And so it's like, oh, am I going to be able to do this? And then, it is very structured and I'm a very high achiever. And so thinking about not meeting the bar and not doing it correctly was terrifying. And so.
Who was your tandem?
Steve. Why am I blanking? I should.
The gentleman that now works with.
Yes.
I know who you're talking about. It's Taylor comes to my mind, but I don't think that's the name.
Steve Taylor.
But I've met him a couple of times at conferences.
I can pull out my phone and tell you in a second.
That's all right. Yeah. We have a good class for that. Like in week 1, you learn how to remember people's names.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Both of us are forgetting names.
I'm like, man, you're asking me questions like that was years ago. I have cataloged and moved on. Especially in higher ed. I mean, I have a new set of students every 3 months. So it's like, I can promise you I'll remember your name while you're in my class.
Herman Bowers was my mentor. I graduate assisted for him many, many, many times. And Herman passed away in 2017. But he was the gentleman that I was to do my tandems with. And I would say Herman was probably 80 or 81 at that time. And had more energy than I could ever dream of having 10, 15 years ago, and he got sick.
Overton,
yeah. See,
I was like, it's gonna come to me.
Fist bump. So he got sick. So my first night, he's there, but he can't do anything, and then week 3, he didn't show up. and he was my tandem partner, and he showed up in week 5, but he couldn't do anything.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So it was like, it was a great experience because he critiqued me and coached me, but there was none of that. Oh, you do the first part of the session, and I'll do the second part. It was just like, Bob, you got to do this.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm sick, so couldn't get that way. So when you went through becoming an instructor, what are some of the things that jump out at you from the product endorsement side of it when you were becoming that instructor?
Man, like, you're really testing my memory today. Like, where?
I told you that's what this was. I could have sent you a list of questions, and it wouldn't come off as real as what this is.
Oh, I mean, it really is for me. It was just like knowing how important the structure and the flow and the processes are to the success of the program, and really feeling like whether or not I was doing it successfully. I think that it was for me the most challenging piece. Like, just, I think, my lack of confidence and like my ability to do it the right way. Mm-hmm. And so that's one thing that I was really grateful for the tandem experience for, because it did provide that safety net of like, cool, if I know if I screw it up, Steve's going to be here to fix it. So it gives you that little bit of security that you're not, for me at least, I wasn't going to mess it up so badly.
Well, we used to, before we put things online and different programs that way, we used to go to St. Louis. That was where our training side was. So I went to St. Louis for a week just to learn how to facilitate. And all we did was every day, 7 o'clock in the morning, we were in the room. And Greg Ratliff was my master trainer. We had about 5 master trainers in the room, but all you did was facilitate all day, and then if you got asked to come back for product endorsement, if you passed that part of it, then you came back for another week. So I went home for a couple of days and then came back to St. Louis for another week, and that was all about learning how to teach the Dale Carnegie class. And that whole experience to me was just, I mean, that was probably 2 of the best weeks of my life, because I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about the nuances of other individuals. We had people from, I think there was 12 different countries that were represented there, from Bulgaria,
Wow.
Puerto Rico, Denmark. I mean, all over the world that we were there together going through that. So, what is some of your advice that you give to people that might be thinking about taking the Dale Carnegie class?
It just, like, if you're gonna do it, like, be ready to really do it. Mm-hmm. Because it is 100%, like, if you go in and you're like, I'm going to do the bare minimum, then you're wasting your time. Like, but if you go in and you really take what the course material is to heart and you really practice and implement and try, you're going to see the results and you're going to see the benefit, and you're going to want to try even harder. Mm-hmm. I think, like, and that's how I started every single class with my students. It's like, you're going to get out of this what you're willing to put in tenfold. Mm-hmm. And if you're not willing to put it in, then don't expect to see the results.
Mm-hmm. And we get a lot of people that show up to the class, don't read the book. It's something magical happens when you do both at the same time. Mm-hmm. When you read the book and do that. Amber, I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, no problem. I enjoyed it. Thanks for all the memory pushing questions.
That's all right. So next Tuesday we're going to put you to work.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm ready.
So
I'll be there.
You show up to class. I'm just going to sit in the back with the grad assistants. It's your program, all right?
Oh, man. All right.
Kick that off, and I want to see what we can do.
Okay.
I appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
Coming here.
Thanks.
This is coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill here at Celebration Point inside the Coach's Podcast Room. My name is Bob Ganzak. She's Amber Bollinger. And this has been MotivationU, the podcast.